Wake up, America. Welcome into Redacted on this Monday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris.
And on the show, we've got a very busy show for you on this Monday. The United States, the Pentagon just announced it is sending additional U.S. troops right now to the Middle East because of the intense bombing that Israel has unleashed on Lebanon, the escalation there. So the Pentagon doubling down. Yes, we are sending additional troops right now as we speak. And it's funny because didn't Kamala Harris during the debate just about a week or so ago say that there are no American forces in any active combat zone anywhere in the world? Of course, that got quickly debunked, but here you go. The Biden administration actively sending more Americans into the hornet's nest as we speak. So we're going to look at this escalation and where things stand in Lebanon at this hour.
Plus, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy is super jealous. He wants troops. He wants an escalation of his war. He's in the United States this week to pitch that. He's touring weapons factory. He says he has a victory plan. We're going to look at how this troll continues to open his hand for more U.S. dollars while his own people die because he's horrid.
By the way, we flew him in on U.S. military aircraft. He's a dictator. He's not. He canceled elections, and we are flying him on U.S. military aircraft around the United States right now. Like, this is the love that we give to these dictators right now. Democracy in Ukraine. We'll talk about that. Also, this bounty. So now the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland's Department of Justice, has released the letter that Ryan Routh apparently wrote calling for the assassination of President Trump, and he couldn't complete the job. So anyone else out there, $150,000 he will pay you in order to complete the job. Why is the Department of Justice publishing this letter when, of course, they've been so opposed to publishing the Tennessee trans shooter manifesto or documents related to the Mar-a-Lago raid are all completely redacted? But this one you can fully read. So we're going to talk about all of that on the show. Plus, we're going to talk about Germany's elections, of course, coming up as well. But good to see all of you guys on this Monday. So glad to have you here. Good to see everyone in the chat room. We are live on Rumble. Hulik, nice to see you in Rumble. Petite Phantom on Rumble. Good to see you guys. We're live streaming on Rumble in the chat and on YouTube as well.
And hey, for those of you who were here early, thank you for noticing. We put an intro back on. People seem to like it. It's a greatest hits for dictators. If you come here early, you get to see all the war lies laid out in front of you. You know, it's meant to sort of be prologue that teaches us not to swallow bullshit when they sell us war. But our whole show today is about them selling us bullshit to sell us war. So we're just going to keep trying to learn. That's what we're doing here. That's why we get up in the morning. We got stuff to do. So we're going to get to that.
I just want to say on the intro. So we used to have this intro for like a couple years here on the show. We had a 30-minute countdown timer and people loved it. And we would rotate through our different countdown timers. Then when we got rid of it, we were testing it out for a couple of months over the summer to see if people liked it or didn't like it. And people were like, bring it back, please. So many people were like, please bring back the intro. So it's back. It's now a 15-minute intro, and some people are wondering, remember, we're always live at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so you don't have to watch the intro. Like, you can hang out with everyone and all of that, but it's not like a mandatory thing. And it also takes about 15 minutes for YouTube to send out their alerts that we're live. So that 15-minute buffer is a great time for everyone to kind of gather up and watch some nutcases talking in front of Congress and other stuff. Some great clips that our team has put together here. So glad to have the intro back. But I just want to make that little public service announcement. Our show starts officially at 4 p.m. Eastern time every day, Monday through Thursday.
All right. So we're going to talk about Israel ready to up the escalation of the war in just a second. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Ramp, because if you are looking to simplify your business finances and get a better handle on where your money is going, who's spending what, then Ramp could be a game changer. Because if you feel like your finance software isn't cutting it and you want the latest and greatest in financial software to simplify spending and help you save time and keep you from getting trapped in busy work, then check out Ramp. If you're a finance professional looking for a better way to really maximize productivity and cut wasteful spending, then look no further than Ramp. It's the corporate card and spend management software designed to help you save time and money and put money back in your pocket. It gives your finance teams unprecedented control and insight into company spend. With Ramp, you're able to issue cards to every employee with limits and restrictions and automate expense reporting so you can stop wasting time at the end of the month and get alerts on who's spending when, what, are they allowed to, that kind of thing. This is the kind of control that you need in your house, actually. had a talk with my daughter this weekend about using her credit card for dumb Halloween decorations. This is what I need in my house, as well as what you need in your business. So right now you can get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/redacted. Whether you have 5 employees or 5,000, you can get started in 15 minutes. So again, go to ramp.com/redacted. That's ramp.com/redacted.
Well, we are sitting on the doorstep of full-scale war between Israel and Lebanon, with strikes over 300 Hezbollah targets over the past few days, and Israel considering a full-scale invasion of Lebanon. And this comes as the Biden administration is now admitting that they want to de-escalate, but they're going to do it through escalating. They support the plan of de-escalation through escalation. What in the hell is going on right now in the Middle East? We are on the brink of a massive war. Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media just returned from Israel and joins us now. Dan, great to see you. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you can help make sense of what's actually happening there right now. What are you hearing the latest from your sources on the ground there?
Well, it's the biggest escalation since this war, this regional war, began on October 7th of 2023, the largest escalation on Israel's northern front with Lebanon. So far today, I mean, the latest numbers are 274 deaths, more than in Lebanon, more than 1,000 wounded. That includes those deaths include 21 children, 39 women, 2 medics. They're images of ambulance targeted by the Israeli military. So it's very reminiscent of the early days of the war on Gaza following the October 7th attack. And I think we're going to see over at least the next days and possibly weeks, this escalation continue, and many, many more deaths of indiscriminate targeting by Israel. So when they say Hezbollah targets, you know, it's the same sort of claims they made about Gaza, where they would just bomb any kind of target, you know, whether that's a civilian house. And they've put out a cartoon, actually, another animation saying that houses in southern Lebanon have Hezbollah missiles inside them. If we think about the cartoon they put out in, I think, November of 2023, saying that there was a Hamas command center under Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza. And then when they actually got down there, their whole proof of some kind of command center was they showed a calendar on the wall and said this is where they kept the hostages, but it was actually just a calendar. So the whole thing was a farce, and this is clearly a farce of what they're claiming to target. What they're actually implementing is something called the Dahia Doctrine. This is an Israeli military strategy that was formalized in 2006 by then Israeli military chief of staff Gadi Eisenkot, who today is, you know, would be considered some kind of leftist in Israel, and is a politician. But basically the Dahia Doctrine, named for the southern Beirut neighborhood of Dahia, which is kind of a base of support for Hezbollah, is the logic is that you destroy the civilian infrastructure and population and target civilians in an effort to turn the civilian population against the resistance group. So the idea is you just kill as many Lebanese indiscriminately as possible, make their lives miserable, and then they'll turn against the resistance. Now, this is what I would say is typical colonial thinking. It's completely backwards, because as what happens is the more you destroy a country, and this is, you know, we can see this throughout history, whether in Afghanistan or Vietnam or, you know, many countries that have gone through foreign occupations and
the bombing of Britain
to liberate themselves
by the Nazis.
Right. People basically, they end up supporting the resistance. The support for the resistance hardens. And so I think that's, you know, what we're going to see is, as this Dahia Doctrine is implemented on a greater scale than it was even before in 2006 when Israel used it, then, you know, it's going to be more destruction and more resistance. And Hezbollah is a much more capable military force than anything Israel has dealt with to this point, certainly more than Hamas, which is very plucky and has been, you know, in its incredible network of tunnels under Gaza. But, you know, it's Hamas, Gaza is under siege. So the fact that they were able to build that tunnel network, develop the weapons, some smuggled, but mostly through their own ingenuity and local production inside Gaza, well, Lebanon does not have that problem, does not have that issue of not having, not being under siege by Israel. So Lebanon has Hezbollah has much more advanced missiles and weaponry. It has much more experience also because it is relatively recently, came out of the war in Syria, which since 2011 was fighting ISIS and Al Qaeda Takfiris and CIA warlords under the banner of the Free Syrian Army that were dedicated to overthrowing the Syrian government and raising the black flag of ISIS over Damascus and eventually to Tehran and Beirut too. So Hezbollah intervened along with the Syrian army and eventually Russia inside Syria to fight these terrorists back. And it gained a ton of invaluable fighting experience there. So Israel, I don't think, is prepared in any way for the kind of resistance it's going to see. First from Hezbollah's arsenal it's now, we've seen the first strikes of its more medium range missiles that have hit settlements deep inside the West Bank, like Ariel and Karnei Shomron. There's reports those have been hit, and then let alone the possibility of an Israeli ground invasion into Lebanon, which is just going to go miserably for Israel, and of course will cost the Lebanese civilian population dearly, will cost them massive amounts of life. But Netanyahu's stated goal of we're going to return normalcy and security to the north of Israel. So the residents who have been displaced from the north since October 7th and are extremely frustrated and angry at the government for failing to bring some kind of security, well, that is now going to be put off even more. And those neighborhoods, which have been and cities which have been abandoned, very well may turn into smoldering piles of rubble. So, just as Netanyahu lied on after October 7th and said, we're going to try to bring the hostages back from Gaza, it was never about that. And he's now lying and saying we're trying to bring security to the north. It's not about that either. It's just going up the escalation ladder because Israel doesn't have any alternative domestically because of its politics. So I think what we're going to see is large swaths of Lebanon will be, especially southern Lebanon, will be decimated by Israel. We'll see huge amounts of civilian casualties, as we're already seeing today, reminiscent of the early months of the Gaza war. But what Israel's not prepared for is the damage that Hezbollah will be able to inflict on Israeli territory. And the Israeli national psyche is, I think, unable to cope with that. We've seen for a variety of reasons. One, it's extremely traumatized. Israel is not used to extended, protracted wars. It's used to, short, fast operations of ferocious bombing backed by the U.S. as a superpower, and then it, arbitrarily declares a ceasefire and says we won, even though there was, they didn't actually achieve anything other than massive amounts of destruction, but no strategic goals have been accomplished. And so that's what it's accustomed to. It's not accustomed to seeing its own cities take such heavy damage. So more and more Israelis are leaving the country. I was just looking at some statistics that are kind of dense, but I'm just looking at some of the data that has recently been published by the Israeli government on emigration from Israel. And keep in mind, there was already a massive amount of emigration in 2023 before October 7th as a result of Israel's judicial reform, judicial coup, whatever you want to call it. But basically the movement by the government to get rid of the Supreme Court, which liberal Israeli society was very opposed to. At that point, about 30% of Israelis were considering leaving the country altogether. And then October 7th happened. Now, since October 7th, This is the data from the first 7 months of 2024. Is there an increase of 58.9% of immigrants from the previous year, which was already much higher. So we're already seeing in the early months of this year, the first up until July, a huge increase, an unprecedented increase of Israelis leaving the country, saying, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. This is just, it's not worth the price to live here. And then now we have this escalation in Lebanon. One more thing, I had a friend, I spoke to an Israeli friend who lives somewhat near Gaza today, who I've worked with in the past. And he, on October 7th, I called him and I asked if he was all right. And he said he was hiding in his house. Since then, he's been okay. Now he tells me my cousins who live in the north, I'm telling them to come to my house because it's not safe. It's not safe up there. So, the south is not really safe either. It's not as if Hamas has been defeated. All those military battalions are still in existence and still carrying out operations against the Israeli military. So that objective of defeating Hamas has not happened, is not anywhere near happening, despite the claims of Israeli military and government officials. And now they're opening a new front that they can't not handle in the north. So, Israel, I think, is just opening another can of worms, another escalation that its population cannot handle. So, and again, this is thanks to the unbridled support of the Biden or Kamala Harris or whoever's running the ghost ship of the Biden administration, with their support, their open support of Israel's so-called de-escalation through escalation strategy. So this is basically leading to an expanded disaster on top of what already is a disaster.
And if you watch all the Sunday shows, the Biden administration is working tirelessly to bring about a ceasefire right now. They're working tirelessly to bring about a ceasefire. Yeah, what are you smoking? That's a big line of garbage and a total line of bullshit. Dan Cohen, who just returned from Israel, unbelievable analysis and understanding of that region. I guess we'll be watching what the United States response will be as this descends into full-blown war in Lebanon. And a lot of people are going to die. I think you're absolutely right about that. Huge swaths of Lebanon are going to be destroyed, but also huge swaths of Israel are going to be destroyed. As our friend Douglas McGregor likes to say, make peace now, you fools. Dan, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Clayton.
Thanks, Dan. And
it's just horrible and bloody.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to die. So southern Lebanon is going to be destroyed. Northern Israel is going to be destroyed.
Civilians who have nothing to do with this.
Yeah. And Americans are heading there right now. So the Pentagon just announced a few minutes ago that they are sending American troops to this region. Again, why? Why is the United States getting involved in this? Because Israel wants it. They absolutely have been trying to pull the United States into a regional war. The Biden administration, of course, is falling for it. And, this is exactly what the Pentagon is doing right now. So why is the United States going there? I come back, wherever you stand on this issue, I don't really care. People get so passionate about this issue one way or the other, but should America involve itself in the Middle East? Should Americans die in the Middle East? I just can't wrap my head around it.
And recall that Americans' involvement in the Middle East is what brought 9/11 upon us, to our shores. What brought the Orlando nightclub shooting to our shores. You want more of that? Is that your answer? I guess I just led I'll tell you what the right answer is. The right answer is no. There's no other answer. I don't want your opinion if you say, yes, we should stay involved there. So Clayton invited you to give that opinion, and I am uninviting you to give that opinion.
Well, I love that we stand for going after terrorists. We're going to go into Syria. We're going to destabilize that country and go after, terrorists. We're going to go after Hezbollah. We're going to go after Hamas. But we'll have our border wide open, our southern border wide open. So the Biden administration is talking out of both sides of its mouth. You're literally welcoming in tens of thousands of illegal immigrants into the United States, many of them on the terrorist watch list. Mm-hmm. What the hell are you doing? You make absolutely no sense, and you're hypocrites. You're absolutely hypocrites. So anyway, that's the Biden administration for you.
All right, we're going to talk about how the Biden administration has welcomed Zelensky on our dime and on our dollar and on our shores to sell yet another war. Who was it that said one war at a time? Was it Kennedy? One war at a time. I think it was Kennedy. Yeah, sure. We're not doing that. We're not doing that anymore. But first, before we talk about the war in Ukraine, Clayton wants to tell you about our friends over at Bunker.
I do. Cybercrime has become the third largest economy in the world, trailing in size only to the United States and China. Cyber criminals target people and businesses by exploiting vulnerabilities in everyday tools we use, like email, social media messengers, free cloud storage, as well as weak passwords. In the last couple of months, there have been two major breaches, probably affected you. There was the breach at AT&T, which exposed all text messages, call logs of every AT&T customer. You may have also heard about every U.S. citizen's social security numbers being compromised from the National Public Database breach. Is anyone protected? Is anyone protecting we the people right now? Well, the people at Bunker Life are. Bunker is an affordable all-in-one app protecting you against identity theft, cybercrime, and surveillance. It includes patent-pending secure messaging, easy-to-use password management, and secure cloud storage. Why pay for several different apps when you can just protect yourself with Bunker for just $12 annually? That's right. And right now, when you visit bunker.life today, you're going to get your first year free when you use that code Redacted. So just download the app, use that code Redacted today, try it for free. You get a whole year for free. Go to Bunker, that's bunkr.life, bunker.life right now, or just go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and download the apps and use that code Redacted for 1 year free. Great to see all of you guys.
It was Lincoln that said one war at a time. I'm sorry. No one else got that in the chat, but Lincoln, I referred to my book. I've been reading, what's his name, Shore?
Michael Scheuer.
Michael Scheuer, his book.
Yeah.
And it's Incredible Hubris or something. Fantastic book about all the ways we do not check ourselves before we go into war.
Michael Scheuer has been a guest on the show. He's an ex-CIA agent. He got out in 2004, and he, like the agent, he's very much like anti-war, get us out of these conflicts, stop trying to provoke wars. He's very outspoken against the CIA. I'd be curious, a lot of people say, oh, when you're in the CIA, you're always in the CIA. Is it? He literally speaks out and writes books about how the CIA meddles in all of these countries and is destroying these countries. So they probably don't like him over there very much. But
the book is Imperial Hubris. David got it for me as my birthday present, and it's fantastic. Can't put it down. Okay, so this is the war. This is the lesson we are not learning from Lincoln, is one war at a time. Europe is going on high alert as Russia is now warning tactical nuclear weapons will be used against NATO targets if NATO and the United States do not step off, which they are not showing that they are inclined to do. Now, Hillary Clinton wants criminal charges against anyone who speaks out against NATO. So what I'm about to say, she wants to be criminal, but I'm going to say it anyway and bring it on, you warmongering piece of garbage. We'll get to Hillary in a second. Today, Zelenskyy is coming to the United States to meet with Biden and Harris and Trump, begging them to let him use long-range weapons to attack Russia. Here he is over the weekend in Scranton, Pennsylvania, visiting a plant that manufactures 155 millimeter artillery shells.
Signing it with a friggin' Sharpie.
Yes. Now, on X, he says that this very plant will be ramping up production for Ukraine. The comments alone make me want to punch a wall. For instance, this fella says, this is something I wish so many on the right would understand. The majority of the money we give to Ukraine is being used to expand capacity and production at these plants, which creates American jobs. Now, first of all, I ask you, do we want a strong economy that's based on killing people? Is that what we're agreeing to here? Second, the money we give has to be created out of debt. That so far has tanked our economy. That means that your groceries are higher. So this it pays America and makes American jobs is fairly short-sighted, given that it's tanking our economy. Don't you think? Anybody?
Yeah. Yes.
Bueller?
They don't see it for what it is.
Professor. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro signed some bombs himself. Watch him do this while Zelenskyy looks on like he just sold a gym membership.
He's so proud.
Yeah. Now, this is a good reminder that Democrats are the party of war. Republicans are too. We should not let them off the hook. We don't see a lot of Republicans telling the truth about this, but Democrats are leading this charge. Now, we'll see more of this week because Zelenskyy is in the U.S. to present his victory plan. This is just a rebranding of his peace summit that he tried to get President Biden to attend in August, and Biden ghosted that event, so now he's coming to us. Again, it's just a rebranding of his beggar campaign to continue the death in an unwinnable war. If you watch Zelensky, he's more like a social media influencer, only instead of getting brand endorsements for skincare, he gets millions of dollars in weapons. The minute he steps off the plane, in a new place, we get fancy edited videos to boost his brand, replete with music from historical dramas such as this one, as if history is happening before our very eyes.
U.S. Air Force flew him anywhere.
All right, so this piece goes on for 3 whole minutes in this vein. He is romanticizing death. Only an idiot who has swallowed propaganda would be inspired by this. Now, didn't we learn our lesson from the weapons of mass destruction propaganda? Let's all wake up, please, when we see things like this. Now, next, Zelensky goes to the UN, and again, he will meet with Vice President Harris and President Trump to make his sleazy pitch for death and pose for photos. Now, I wish both candidates would turn off the lights the way you signal that you're out of Halloween candy so that he would just go away. But Kamala Harris wants this war to continue, so she will not do so. She said so at the debates recently. Recall this.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
Okay, Justin Bureau in our chat says this channel is Russian propaganda. I would like to tell Justin to kiss my ass, because what this channel does not abide is lies that lead to war. And I am going to show you, Justin, how she is lying. Before I do that, what were you going to say, David?
I was going to say, did she just admit that she shared military secrets with a non-NATO member, another military leader?
Suppose.
I think that's what she just said. I just shared intelligence with Zelensky, so how he could protect himself. And then, of course, Trump's retort a few seconds later was, so you met with him, and then 2 days later, Russia invaded. Like, whatever you did was highly effective.
Yes. Okay, allow me to point out how she is lying. This was not an invasion at the whim of Putin, and Putin has never expressed interest in going beyond the territory where the war currently is. Further, when she says he would give it up, I just wonder, when was it hers to give up? When was it ours in the United States to give up?
2014, when we incited a coup and installed a CIA-backed puppet government in Kiev. So they belong to us. They belong to BlackRock. They belong to Vanguard. So they belong to Kamala Harris by proxy.
Let's go back to the map.
We demand a return on our investment for that. Coup.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes, we are investing in this territory that we don't own. So let's again look at the map so that we look at what she's talking about. The territory that is dark red and dark gray are the regions that Ukraine has been attacking with NATO's help since 2014, as Clayton said, because either those people are Russian, ethnic Russians, or Russian aligned. Innocent people live there, and the Ukrainian army has attacked them in violent and unspeakable ways, killing civilians for a decade. In 2022, as attacks in that region escalated, Ukraine attacking, not Russia, supported by the U.S. and NATO's money, 5 mayors from those regions asked Russia to come in and stop it. Russian parliament voted to do that, not Putin, personally. And in fact, once the Russian army had control of those places, those people voted overwhelmingly to join Russia. It was not Putin's invasion. It was not an unprovoked attack. The attack had already been started by Ukraine. Now, Kamala Harris is either not studied because she's stupid or she's lying. Why would she do that? I ask you. And why would she have the hubris to talk about giving it up? Who gave us Ukraine to give up? Whose is it to give up? The people who lived there voted. Is that not the will of the people? Or should they just go back to dying because Ukraine wants to attack them? Now she says Ukraine is still sovereign today, lol. Why is Zelensky here then? He keeps pitching war as peace, and our leaders and our media are swallowing it. Again, NATO provoked this war by sending Zelensky those weapons to keep attacking those regions. NATO's the one that wants the war to be escalated. Now, Hillary Clinton, who is also lustful for this war, told MSNBC's Rachel Maddow last week that anyone who speaks out against NATO's involvement in Ukraine against Russia, as I clearly just did, should be prosecuted.
Just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Okay. Oh, bring it on, you warmongering witch! Because we talk out against NATO's. So we talk out against NATO's involvement and attacks in these regions and this provocation, and so you want to criminally prosecute those people who speak out against this treachery?
Yes, that's what she wants. So
I love how
because
she dresses like an evil empress too, like with the black
I didn't
cloak.
Notice. What is she wearing? Yeah, she does look a lot like Dolores Umbridge.
Emperor Palpatine.
Okay, so the context that I just provided you for the escalation of war in Ukraine, because I absolutely want it to stop. I want not another bullet sent to Ukraine. I want not another bit of support. I want the cameras to turn off and walk away from Zelensky. I do not want him to meet with any elected or unelected U.S. leader, full stop. That she wants to be prosecutable. But it is still a free country, and I still can say it. And it's clear what she wants is an escalation with Russia. Now, Russia keeps responding to this rhetoric and saying, we will back off, you back off. The United States, Europe, and NATO. Just today, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, I'm sure I said that wrong, I apologize, said nothing regarding this position on nuclear has changed. As previously outlined by the Russian president, we can conduct such tests, but we will not hold any, given the United States refrains from such steps regarding nuclear tests. So this is the same way my sister and I used to fight when we would hold each other's hair. Like, you let go. No, you let go. Like, literally, let go. Walk away, de-escalate. If you don't do it, we won't do it. If we had prudent leaders, we would speak directly to them, not use an idiot puppet like Zelensky, but we don't. Now, even though President Trump reiterated in the debate that the war was Putin's invasion, which is false, at least he says he's willing to broker a real negotiation between Ukraine and Russia. And RFK Jr. has admitted that we violated the Minsk agreements. So at least he has one non-liar nearby.
Well, J.D. Vance also overnight said basically he can go pound sand, told Zelensky, like, we don't want to see you. Zelensky fired back at J.D. Vance. Right. So, and J.D. Vance on the campaign just a few days ago said that we absolutely should not be sending Americans money and weapons into 6,000 miles away. We should be more focused on the United States of America, not sending weapons and money to Zelensky. So that's not, that hasn't made Zelensky happy.
It's the closest we get to some kind of truth and de-escalation with our vote in this war. Now, Zelensky said, well, J.D. Vance, he just doesn't understand it because the deeper you look at this war, the less you understand. So in other words, if you study, you don't understand my way. So he wants you to not look at the context of this war and just keep it going. So if you vote for the Democrats in this election, your vote will extend this war, extend our debt to support it, extend the death of innocent Ukrainians, and most likely eventually be a debt to send our children abroad to fight too. Not just boys, you guys, girls too, because the updated defense budget for next year does have plans to conscript women, so pay attention. Now, I absolutely do know that if you vote for Kamala Harris, you are voting for this war and probably our children in this war. I do not know if President Trump will de-escalate the war, but at least he says that he will, and the people around him seem to understand the context and be selling it to us less. So vote for Democrats if you want to die in this war and continue to tank our economy, or maybe we have a vote to end it. I don't know. You let me know what you think.
Well, and Russia will be forced to use tactical nuclear weapons, says an advisor close to Vladimir Putin over the past 24 hours. In an interview with Times Radio, Sergei Markov said, yes, we will have to use tactical nuclear weapons if NATO strikes using long-range weapons inside of Russia. And Europe, of course, is on high alert as a result of this. So, I mean, we're playing with nuclear war. And as Trump said during the debate, you can disagree with him on any number of policies, but on that, he was the only one during that debate speaking out against stopping nuclear war. Kamala sort of like scoffed at it, saying,
well, let's try to end it. And she's like, end it, right? As
like
if that very idea of peace was offensive to her.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is if any of this would have happened to the United States, if another country would be doing what Ukraine and NATO is doing to Russia, we'd have annihilated them by now.
Well, yeah, you know I mean, that's a hypothetical. I don't want. We at least would have.
It's just what we do, though. It's our MO.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. Let us know what you think of that, because it continues to escalate, and we have idiots who are welcoming Zelensky to keep, putting his influencer brand on blast. So.
Yeah, no demons like peace on Rumble. In our Rumble chat, Drifter's Life says, no demon likes peace. Exactly. There are more bombs. There are more bombs to use than nuclear bombs, Noel says. Yeah, they're going to use up as many as they can. We used to have to make weapons in order to respond to war. Now we manufacture wars, right, in order to make weapons. So we're manufacturing these wars. We want to keep this thing going. We want to keep manipulating people into believing that somehow there's evil, the Russians are evil, that the Syrians are evil, that the Yemenis are evil. Like, all these people are evil. So we need to have a massive military-industrial complex. And then you all get played like pawns. We all get played on a chessboard, right? Mm-hmm. They're playing us with this propaganda. And real people are dying right now as a result of it. And Americans are dying, by the way, and they're hiding it, what's happening in Ukraine. Americans are dying in Ukraine, but they're not going to announce it and tell you about it. All right, we've got more news to get to. Trump's bounty. The DOJ releasing the letter from Ryan Routh admitting that he couldn't pull off the assassination attempt, but now there's a $150,000 bounty out there for Trump. And why is the Department of Justice publishing this letter when they've held back on all sorts of other manifestos from the left that we can't see? Well, Donald Trump Jr. has a theory on this. We're going to talk about the bounty on Trump in just a second. Plus the German election. Germany, we just got some economic numbers on Germany just this morning. It is devastating. Germany's economy is collapsing in real time right in front of us. And they just had an election. We're going to talk all about that in mere moments. But first, I know we talk a lot about gold and silver on this show and precious metals. You just saw the interest rates last week. We saw the Federal Reserve slashing interest rates at 50 basis points, a massive admission that they need to get their hand jumping on a grenade basically right now, trying to stop inflation, doing what they can. This is an admission that the U.S. dollar, and we are ending the Bretton Woods agreements. We are ending the U.S. dollar hegemony, and we are going to see multiple rate cuts this year. That means a devaluing of the U.S. currency, and that's why there's been such a surge. Bitcoin surging, alternative currencies surging, gold, silver, as a result, because people want to be able to buy tangible, real things. And our friends at Lear Capital can help you get set up investing in precious metals. inside the United States, if you just give them a call and you can have a conversation with them. And what's great about Lear is there's no pressure to buy. They'll talk with you about your options. And if you do buy gold or silver, you have a 24-hour cooling off period. If you buy coins and you want them shipped to your home, great. You can call them back 24 hours and say, you know what, I changed my mind. And they really have stepped that up to make sure that you are comfortable as whatever purchase you want. If you want them shipped right to your house, you can do that. Or if you want them stored off-site in a secure location, that's what Natalie and I do. Is we have it stored off-site in a location. But you do you. You could have it. You could get a few gold bars and silver, whatever, sent right to your house. I know a lot of our viewers do that, and they store it in their gun safe. Again, you guys, you do you. Whatever you're comfortable with. But now more than ever, it's to protect yourself against this declining U.S. dollar, and they can help you do it. Just give them a call, 1-800-613-3557, to ask for your free precious metals guide. They have a whole bunch of different reports you can learn about. Their gold to $3,200 an ounce. Their report on that. You can also learn how to invest in silver. All of that Lear will help you with just on the phone. Have a conversation with them. 1-800-613-3557 or go to LearRedacted.com. That is LearRedacted.com. Well, the Department of Justice is now admitting that there is a $150,000 bounty on Trump's head. Yes, Merrick Garland's DOJ promoting a $150,000 bounty on Trump's head. Ryan Routh, of course, is a CIA asset who wrote a letter months ago, and now this letter is just coming to light. I guess it was in case he didn't carry out the assassination that this letter would be revealed. Well, now it's been revealed. And the Department of Justice releasing this, U.S. District Court releasing this letter. Here it is. Dear world, this was an assassination attempt, he says, making it clear on Donald Trump, but I am so sorry I failed you. I tried my best. And again, I gave it all the gumption I could muster. It's up to you now to finish the job, he says, and I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job. Everyone across the globe, from the youngest to the oldest, know that Trump is unfit to be anything, much less a U.S. president. So $150,000. Now, this is the guy that Newsweek, of course, featured in their interview with him while he was in Ukraine as a CIA asset in Ukraine, basically begging for $5. He hadn't have $5 to his name.
I love that you skipped the part where he says a U.S. president has to have moral fabric, but he's about to murder.
Right. He's like, I'm an assassin, but I really want my president to have moral fabric.
I stand for morals.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not kill. Not that one.
I'm a moral guy.
Did he write this letter beforehand just in case, or because they got him right away, so he wouldn't have had time to, did he write it in the police car? And when did he write this letter?
That's unclear. What I was wondering too.
Yeah, and we don't know yet. According to ABC News, the most trusted name in news, they don't know. We don't know yet exactly when this letter was written, but it was apparently written ahead of time.
Or were there two letters, like if I die, if I succeed, right, open A or B?
Like what? Brown book?
Yes.
Or like
Choose your own adventure.
Like Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Allied Supreme Commander, he wrote a letter, his speech.
No, I don't know.
If D-Day failed. Okay. And he had a letter launching D-Day, and he had a letter for, basically offering his resignation if D-Day failed.
Okay.
So he just had a backup, in case, right?
Yeah.
So Donald Trump Jr. has a great question. His son wants to know, what the F? Why is Kamala's DOJ publicizing Brian Wesley Routh putting a bounty on my dad's head? Imagine, I get chills thinking about that, right? Like, regardless of your politics, whether you like Donald Trump or not, whether you like Donald Trump Jr. or not, it doesn't matter. They're human beings. I imagine, I can picture my son thinking that about his father, right? Like, can you imagine they're just publicizing this? The DOJ publishes this letter out there for everyone to see?
Yeah, that's a little irresponsible.
A little. So in an exclusive interview, Donald Trump Jr. sat down with Daily Wire to say, now his father's life is even more at risk by releasing this bounty letter. You're putting my father's life more at risk by offering $150,000 to anyone who can kill the former president. Now, I'm sure morons out there don't believe that they're going to receive $150,000, but the idea is now set. Any sort of people who want, with this rhetoric that he's unfit to be president, all of the same language that comes from the left about this man, again, regardless of your politics. I would be saying the exact same thing if there was an assassination attempt against President Biden.
Yeah.
I would be doing the exact same story. And if the Trump's Department of Justice released the letter encouraging Americans to basically go and assassinate a president, I would be saying the same damn thing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's could be construed as incitement to violence.
This is exactly why, like, the State Department has a long-running statute where they don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right.
This is because it encourages them. And so then, but then they publish it. I mean, that is highly irresponsible.
Robbie Starbuck tweets this. He says, I try never to be surprised, but the Department of Justice putting out a bounty to kill Trump actually put my jaw on the floor. How the hell are we supposed to take them releasing this bounty as anything but an attempt to get President Trump killed?
And recall that it's the same Justice Department that is currently pursuing indictments against Donald Trump. So the illusion of impartiality is punctured, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, this is the same Department of Justice, just so you understand. They have a choice as to what documents they release, right? So when they're questioned as to which documents related to Trump's house, the raid at Mar-a-Lago, the DOJ released this document justifying the raid. They chose to redact key parts of it, right?
Right.
The concerns are particularly compelling in this case. Like, that's it. That's it. That's all you get. The rest of it's redacted.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you want to release the hit on Donald Trump, here, you can read the full thing. Here's the full letter. Release it. Here it is. We'll offer $150,000. DC Drano tweeted this. So the DOJ will immediately release a bounty letter from the Florida Trump assassin offering $150,000 bounty to take out Trump, but wouldn't release the Nashville trans terrorist manifesto for over a year. The DOJ needs a massive overhaul. Right. So the trans manifesto, of course, shooting up a Christian school, and we don't get to see any of that because the left wants to protect transgender and they wanted to blame it on Christians. See how this works? Jesse Kelly tweeted this. People are shocked the DOJ publicized a $150,000 bounty on Trump's because people still haven't accepted that we already live under an evil, murderous government that will simply kill anyone who threatens its criminal enterprise. Corrupt regimes murder their enemies always. Corrupt regimes murder their enemies always. This is Trump's new plan, and they're going to kill him for it. So basically, Trump's plan, of course, is to decouple us from this globalist agenda, which I've talked about here on the show. They're actively going after them. They know that he is winning. Congressman Matt Gaetz this weekend released a bombshell story about how he has sources at the Department of Homeland Security telling us that there are 5 kill teams currently trying to take out President Trump. Listen. Sorry, guys. Just give me a second.
I'll break a little news for you. I had a senior official from the Department of Homeland Security in my office before the second assassination attempt saying that what he has assessed is that there are 5 known assassination teams in the United States, 3 inspired by other governments, 2 that are here that are known domestic assassination teams. And with that, this individual was coming to me concerned that the force protection around President Trump, even prior to that second assassination attempt, was not sufficient for what it needed to be. And the coordination at that level, at the dignitary protection level, is like the bare minimum that we have to do to keep our presidents, our presidential candidates safe while they're on the trail.
So there are 5, I just want to follow up, 5 assassination teams. Are they all targeting Trump? Is it other officials?
Yes. No, wow. I should have been clear about that. 5 teams that we know are targeting Trump. And so that raises real questions about why certain teams were being pulled off of the Trump detail and put on, for example, the Jill Biden detail. Now, we don't want anything bad to happen to Jill Biden, but at the same time, the threat envelope for her was substantially different than the threat envelope around President Trump, and it would not have necessitated pulling assets away from the Trump detail for the Jill Biden detail or the John Bolton detail or any other details that were beefed up. At the same time, the requests from the Trump detail and from the Trump campaign for more security were going unanswered.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
What's funny but not funny is that over the weekend, Axios tried to publish this hit piece about Donald Trump saying that he's doing fewer public events than he used to do on the trail, as if they're trying to tell us, well, he's slowing down, he doesn't have the audience, whatever. Mike Benz, the former State Department and cyber expert, says because you guys keep shooting him. Like, this doesn't hold water because he clearly is at risk for some form of deep state collaboration. It's undeniable.
It's deeply, deeply troubling. And of course, I mean, we also heard reports over the weekend. We covered them this weekend as well, where there are now reports that individuals are trying to take out a Trump airplane when he's in flight using shoulder-fired missiles. I mean, you have 5 hit teams, shoulder-fired missiles. You have the DOJ publicizing a letter for a $150,000 bounty. I mean, what more evidence do you need of a deep state plan to take this guy out? As Michael Scheuer, again, ex-CIA agent Michael Scheuer wrote this weekend, he said, excuse me, first, we must assume that the 2 assassination teams that are domestic groups are simply the creatures of the Democratic Party and or the leadership of the Department of Homeland Security and the Secret Service, which appear to have already taken 3 cracks at killing Trump. He says, in other words, our federal government, deep state cabal, is basically actively trying to assassinate Trump and stop his election and stop his plans from being implemented. They are terrified of this guy. They're actively terrified of President Trump, and that's why they are trying to kill him right now. Deeply, deeply troubling. So we'll see. I want to know, I got a question for you. So he's raising he was raising $5, right? He was trying to, he had no money, Ryan Ralph. Right. He's like, I need like $5. He takes a first class flight. Mm-hmm. First class flight. He has a gun that's been modified. If you see the photos from the FBI that they released of his gun and all of his equipment, like a modified gun that's there. He's got all kinds of money now, apparently. Where is he getting this money from? And by the way, how does he get $150,000? How is he going to fund $150,000 to complete the job?
Great question.
He was also offering to fund people that would fight in the war. What, $1,200 a month or something like that for anybody who would like. Where's he getting the money to make that claim?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, who knows? I have an idea, though.
All right. Well, we have more news to get to. Let us know what you think of those stories. We're going to talk about how the party associated with Nazis, apparently, according to the media, lost by a hair few because the German government remains in control. The party of Olaf Scholz, which has tanked the German economy and told Germans that they're all racists. So we're going to talk about what's happening in Europe. That sounds fun, right? But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at American Financing because the Federal Reserve dropped interest rates. So you should call our friends at American Financing today. With mortgage rates in the 4s now is the perfect time to consolidate your debt. Take your bad debt and turn it into good debt and reduce your monthly expenses. A lot of us have been forced to use credit cards to just deal with this ridiculously priced economy right now. And that debt is expensive with credit card rates being insanely high. But mortgage rates have dropped now, so you can learn to leverage what you've got in your asset, which might be your primary home, and use that money to build wealth instead of just build debt. This is something that wealthy people do all the time. They take their assets and they leverage them to continue to build. They do not live by their liabilities. They live by their assets. And they can teach you this. So American Financing will help homeowners just like you save over $800 a month on average. So this is something that you can just decide, I'm going to learn this because I'm tired of suffering from my finances. So call them at 866-890-8434 or go to americanfinancing.net/redacted. Once again, that's americanfinancing.net/redacted. If you listen to the media, they will tell you that the Nazi Party is growing in Germany again and that they just barely missed winning an election over the weekend. Well, are they Nazis? Why? Are they far right? Ralph Scholheimer joins us again to break down European politics. He's the host of Hammer Time on YouTube and one of my favorite European political analysts. Ralph, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, I'm going to ask you to explain who is the Alternative for Germany or the AfD and are they Nazis?
Well, thanks so much for having me, Natalie. Well, as you know, also from the discourse in the United States, who isn't a Nazi these days? I think everybody who's slightly to the right of the Greens is automatically a Nazi. So we throw around the term Nazi and fascist in such an inflationary ways these days. It really kind of waters down any meaningful discourse. No, they are not, right? I mean, they are a right-wing party, absolutely. And I think there is a general thrift towards the right in Germany and other parts of the world as well. But I would argue they sound more like conservatives did in the 1980s. I would argue that somebody like Ronald Reagan, particularly also economically, or Charles de Gaulle or Winston Churchill, they would immediately recognize the AfD, despite them being a German party, as a traditional conservative party. So no, they're not Nazis. They just embody something that we have discussed in the show quite often, which is that the establishment parties supported by the establishment media is no longer working for most of the people. There is a sense that everybody and everything is more important for them than Germany and the German people. And understandably, right, from Berlin to Brandenburg to Bavaria to Schleswig-Holstein, the Germans want a party, a political movement. They want institutions that they feel puts them first. So it's the Germany first version of America first in the United States.
So I guess what these headlines are insinuating is because Germany is the bad guy in World War II, they can never feel nationalistic ever again. And anytime Germans feel like they must support themselves, this could lead to a Holocaust. It's a very extreme leap to take, but it's laziness that is clickbait. That's what I think. What do you think?
No, it's clickbait. You're right. And the thing is that usually you only refer to the other side as a Nazi if you're losing the argument. I mean, full disclosure, if I would be sitting here in front of you in an SS uniform and you would say, Ralph, so where do you come from? Then maybe the argument would be valid. But usually, as we hear, Donald Trump is not a Nazi. Nigel Farage is not a Nazi. The AfD is not a Nazi party. So you could make, I'm willing to concede, you could make the argument, if there are Nazis in Germany, are they most likely to vote for the AfD? Sure, but you can say by the same token, right, that if you're on the far left, if you're a communist, if you're a Trotskyite, you're probably going to vote for the Greens or the Socialist Party, but that does not make them a Trotskyite party, right? So I think this idea to say that their program or anything of that matter is national socialist or fascist is simply not true. And by the way, just to be very clear, if it would be true, German laws are very strict. They would be banned. So this is why this argument is so absurd, right? They say, oh, this is a Nazi party. And of course they say, well, then ban us. And they say, well, legally we can't ban you because they're de facto not a Nazi party. So this is really just an attempt. And I think we see the same in the United States as well. It's an attempt to intimidate, to blackmail voters into not voting for the parties that they actually feel would present their interests in the best possible way.
So early results are seeming to show that Chancellor Olaf Scholz's party has won a slight majority, the Social Democrats. But by a hair is what we're seeing right now. And so is this a win for the chancellor? Do you think people were just do you think people actually support the chancellor and his war funding? His, he continues to support the war in Ukraine. He continues to support immigration. And so these are the things that are really harming the German people. Did the German people really vote for more of this?
No. There's a funny story. Before the elections took place, the regional Socialist Party explicitly told Chancellor Scholz not to come to Brandenburg to campaign for them because they were afraid that he would lose them the vote. So when he now says, well, this is a huge success for me and the party, no, it's not. The party only made it barely into first place for two reasons. One is because they distanced themselves from Scholz and the federal government. And the second reason is the Greens were kicked out of parliament. So what they basically said, everybody who doesn't like the AfD has to vote for us because that's the only way to prevent them from coming in first place, which was factually true. But it also meant it's not that all of a sudden the socialists were super popular. It was just that people who originally wanted to vote for the Greens or the Left Party or even the Conservatives, they said, all right, this time I give my vote to the socialists. And we actually do know this because they did a poll among SPD voters after the election and said, what was the main reason you voted for the SPD? Was it the party program or was it an attempt to prevent the AfD from coming in first? And I kid you not, 75% replied, no, they only voted for the socialists to prevent the AfD from coming in first. And what this tells you in Germany in a broader sense is that many of the establishment parties, they don't have a genuine program anymore. The only program they have, and we see, by the way, the same in Austria with our right wing as well, the only program they have is, we are not the AfD. And that's the reason why Germany is coming to a standstill, right? This is the reason why Germany is not working that well anymore, because if all the political parties have is, we don't have a program, but at least we are not those guys, that is not how you do successful policy. So I think that on the long run, the success of the AfD will continue.
Is there something I'm missing, though, in this AfD platform, that they want a slowing down of illegal immigration or immigration in general, and they don't want their economy to be destroyed by funding of war? Is there something more hateful and insidious in there that maybe I've missed because I don't speak German?
Well, it depends. I mean, there are people who say that the idea to put your own country first is hateful in itself, right? I think that you and I would not share that sentiment, but some people make the case. But if you look at the voter, I mean, this is so fascinating. If you look at the voter breakdown, the AfD came first with voters under 30. So the idea, right, that everybody who votes for the AfD is like old Nazis who cling to the last years of their life is entirely untrue. These are young people that vote for them. They came in first with workers, and they came in first with people who are self-employed. So it's basically those who are young and keep the country running who more and more shift to the AfD. And I think that's also an encouraging sign, because most people want their country to work for them, and there's nothing wrong with this. We have this autoimmune disease all over the West, I would argue, where we are told to feel bad if we say that Germany should work for Germans, just as the United States should work for Americans. That is how it is supposed to be. We live in a world that consists of nation states. And in order to have a nation state, the nation part is kind of important. So this idea that is like a mind virus among, and in this case, it is true among Western elites, that we no longer exist, or that governments, that the media no longer exists to serve its people, but to serve, newcomers, immigrants, you name it, which again, does not mean that people who newly arrived to your country cannot become part of that nation within a generation, with 2 generations, right? I mean, it's a great honor. I always say when I come to the UK or the United States, it's a great honor to be in such a country and strive and work towards becoming a member of that nation. And then, of course, I'm part of it, and then the government will also work for me in the way it does for those already there. But primarily the point of a government, of a state, of a country is to work for its own people. And this is what the Germans want, it's what the French people want, it's what the British want, it's what the Americans want. But we have been marinated in the belief that that is somehow bad. By the way, just quick final note, nobody in India, nobody in China, nobody in Japan understands that kind of thinking. Right? For the Chinese, it's absolutely clear that the Chinese government, however authoritarian it might be, that it works for the Chinese people. And the same is completely obvious for the Chinese leadership. The same is the case in India. Whatever you think about the Indian government and Indian leadership, they know that their primary obligation is towards the Indian people. It's just in Europe and the United States and Australia and some other parts of the West where there's this odd idea that the primary responsibility of political parties is towards the global climate, is towards some universal human rights, is towards some, utopian, or as we would probably say, dystopian ideal, and their own people come very, very last. And I think there are people revolting against that, and I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, I agree. And so now, this morning, or over the weekend, French President Emmanuel Macron has formed a center-right, what they're calling center-right, again, government, after a snap election forced him to do so. So this labeling, can you explain what they mean now by center-right?
I mean, let's put it this way. He put some people in charge in some fairly, I would say, prominent positions of government that are more inclined towards the right, towards the left. Probably not as far as you and I would wish for. But what you see, I think, is that despite all the clamors you hear from the media, democracy is dying, or as the Washington Post says, democracy dies in darkness. Actually, democracy is working, right? Slowly but surely, maybe Macron is going to be the first of many. They start to realize that people want a change in policy. They don't just vote with their guts. They say, listen, the direction we have chosen for the country is 180 degrees from where we want the country to go. And so some of them, like an ocean liner that tries to avoid the iceberg, they're now gradually starting to change course. And I think Macron is begrudgingly doing the same. Just a quick word also again on Germany. The last regional elections in the state of Brandenburg, where the elections took place, had a voter turnout of 61%. This time they had 73%. It was the same in the other two regional elections a couple of weeks ago. So this idea that democracy is dying because of the far right or the hard right or whatever you want to name it is not true. I think the exact opposite is the case. People are very excited that they now have a choice for a party that is, as the name says in Germany, a true alternative, or the rational Nelly, the national rally. Sorry, my emotions get the better part of me. In France, right? This is a great sign. This is what makes democracy exciting, that you actually have options for new movements, new parties that propose entirely new path forward. I think this is a great sign. So don't believe the naysayers that democracy is at its end. Not at all. It's only in danger if those who are in power want to prevent anybody else from gaining power. Then it's in danger, because the essence of democracy is that new parties, new movements, new individuals can get a shot at trying their best.
Yeah. Well, thank you for breaking that down. You're right. Okay, I share your enthusiasm then, despite these headlines. You can follow Ralph and his show on YouTube. It's called Hammer Time, or Ralph Schulhammer. You can find him on X as well. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to get your analysis.
Thanks, Natali. Thank you so much for having me.
That's going to do it for us here on Redacted today. Thank you so much for taking your time on this Monday to be with us. It's getting hot, you guys. Election season is upon us. It's important to be informed voters of our electorate. So thank you for doing the homework, for showing up. We really appreciate you. Hey, don't forget, we have a daily newsletter. Usually it covers a lot of the same stories we're going to talk about in Redacted that day. We try really hard to give you original links so that you can read for yourself, so you can see for yourself, not media spin. You don't always have to agree with us. We just really appreciate your patronage. So get a free subscription to our newsletter. Head on over to redacted.inc, click get the newsletter, and you'll get it for free as soon as you click that little authentication link, and you're off to the races. So please do follow along in case, some of the platforms that we're on, we're not guaranteed to always be there, Okay, but we're here today. We will see you tomorrow. That's the plan. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you tomorrow.